Hi there, welcome. It is June of 2026, and I'm coming from my new place, although I'm still working on the lighting and the camera setup, so bear with me, but I'm excited and lots of changes already happening in 2026. But I'm Trisha Broderick. I own Ignite Insight and Innovation. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for X2A. And I try and go live once a month. And this month we are talking about hard choices. And given that I have had so many changes and things going on, but there's also been a lot of some easy choices and some hard choices. So I thought I'd share a little bit about what makes it a hard choice for me and what I do when I'm facing a hard choice. Especially with the world right now and everything else, I feel like this might be a topic that some others are kind of facing right now. And if nothing else, it helps me to talk through it and think through it and kind of engage with it. So what makes it a hard choice versus choices that you have to make every day? There's usually some kind of risk or unknown or challenge associated with it, right? Where you don't know what the outcome is going to be, or you're not confident about what the outcome is going to be. It's just completely unknown. And it has this element of risk and uncertainty, fear associated to it, versus choices where they might seem hard, but choosing between what two restaurants you're going to eat for dinner, there's not a lot of consequence. I guess there could be if you have sensitivities or allergies or things like that. But in general, for a hard choice, there's some risk associated to it and some kind of consequence, good or bad, successful or not, that's associated, that makes it feel like there's weight to it, that makes it sometimes feel impossible to choose, or just challenging on every front with it. And so, first confession is I often treat standard choices and things like hard choices. Like, I'm quick to kind of make it feel like it's a much bigger choice than it actually has to be. I don't know why I do that. I think it's just partially my brain or partially my personality, but I will have a tendency to make choices that don't have those factors feel like they're hard choices, make them bigger than they actually are. So I like kind of taking a moment to realize and truly distinguish, truly kind of go, is this really a hard choice, or am I just kind of mentally making it a hard choice? And it is shocking to me how many times it really doesn't fit in that risk factor, that unknown factor, that weight factor, and it's kind of self-induced. And so that's just one element. And maybe that's more of a me thing than anybody else, but it's something I face, I experience, I think about and go through it. So once I do have a hard choice, like I know that there's risk, there's unknowns, there's uncertainty, it feels like a big decision, I can get a little paralyzed in making that choice. And as much as I say to embrace complexity, I'm still human. I still want to try and make the perfect choice, the perfect decisions, and to get my perfect check marks as I'm going forward. But I know that's not realistic, and part of it is reframing what my hard choice is, that it's not right or wrong, but to think about it in different ways. And so here's some of the ways that I think about it, to help make sure that when I do distinguish it as a hard choice, I don't just try and avoid it, because that's not going to be good. And so one is I almost have to remind myself that I don't want fear to make the decision, right? That I don't want to tell myself that I can't, those narratives that we tell ourselves, that it's too hard to make this decision, or you shouldn't make this decision, or if you make that decision, you're just going to fail. You've taken all the uncertainty out. You know exactly what's going to happen is a bad thing, right? And then I start kind of going, okay, what really is the worst thing if I make this choice? Because it could still be a hard choice, but doesn't have to be the hardest choice. And anything I can do to put it on that spectrum can be helpful for me and kind of going with it. But the biggest thing I do once I realize that it is a hard choice is to remind myself that it's not a hard choice that's I'm trying to avoid something, but instead it's an opportunity. We tend to think of risks as negatives, but they can be opportunities. And so this is where I try and invest. I lean into a hard choice. So once I've acknowledged that it's a hard choice, once I've kind of embraced and and recognized it inside myself with it, I think about how to invest in it, how to make the most out of the hard choice, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's challenging, is how am I going to make the most out of that hard choice? And so one of those things is kind of building off the list that I just gave is I can't make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I tell myself I'm going to fail at that choice, if I set myself up for failure of this choice, then that's what's going to happen each and every time, right? Like I'm making it true. I'm making it a thing. I'm not willing it to happen because I don't know if I necessarily always believe in that, but there is some dynamic of how our brains work and what happens that suddenly I see what I want to see, right? Those biases start coming out and I can make it a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. So I really have to check myself with that, like that I'm not setting myself up right out of the bat to make a hard choice to then only to fail at it because I've told myself I'm going to fail at it right out of the gate. I also thought thinking about if within this hard choice that I have to make, what would increase the odds of success? Do I need to reduce some of the work that I'm working on so I can spend more time focusing on it? Do I need to get support or backup or partners or collaborators to increase the odds of success, right? What would increase and make the risks less, right? It's all about risk response when you're dealing with hard choices and stuff. And so what do I need to do? What do I need to think about? What needs to be in place so that that negative doesn't happen, that it really is an investment, an opportunity, and a chance with things? And then the third is like, what's my check-in point? What's my time period? What's the thing that I'm coming back for and reflecting on? I find that when I don't feel like a hard choice is this binary, you're in it locked forever and ever and ever, it gets easier to make the choice and to think about what you're going to do if you're like, okay, and I'm going to re-examine it at this point. So earlier this year, I made a hard choice. Do I want to, let me give this as an example. Earlier in the year, I made a hard choice of, do I want to continue with just Ignite as the company I run and own? Or do I want to go in as a practitioner with X2A and what that's going to look like? And in some ways, I had to even stop myself. Is this really a hard choice? What really happens? What's really the risk? Right? And I had to work through a lot of that and get it on a spectrum of what really is hard about this, because nobody was dying. Nobody, right? Like there was a weight that I could start immediately lifting off of that choice. And then I started thinking about, okay, what needs to be in place? Who am I going to be collaborating? What needs to be in place for Ignite so that it's steady and okay? What do I need to do to balance? Okay, I'm going to come off of this board position, or I'm going to speak less at these conferences. And I just started thinking about the system that I'm in for when I make this hard choice of saying, okay, how can I make this the best possible opportunity that it can be? And with all those changes I've gotten to already do new material. I've got a new course coming out with different things. I've gotten to work with teammates and across the board. And yet I don't feel like I completely just gave up everything I've been working for in the last 5 to 10 years either. And so I took a hard choice and made it this opportunity and this investment, but I had to be intentional about it. And I still have to be intentional about it. I'm partially talking about this right now because one of my tips was thinking about my timeline. And I had said about 6 months, half the year, I'd come in and check in and going, am I hating this? Do I want to go back full time? Do I want to stay? And I'm excited to say the opportunities, the growth, the challenge, even the wait, right, has been worth it plus more. And so I can keep making hard choices the more and more that I see the results of when I make the hard choices, when I invest in those hard choices and what that looks like. So not all hard choices work out. Some fail. And that's okay. If you're investing, if you're taking those dynamics and you're coming in, because it's all part of those narratives that helps you to make the next hard choice that you have to make. Because I know this won't be my last one. And we face them all the time. Just try figuring out where and how hard it is, and then what's the things in place that you can set that will help that hard choice be a little bit easier. Not just in making it, but in doing. So those are some things that I think through. Sometimes I know it's scary to be inside of my brain, but that's what I think about. And when I'm trying to make those kind of choices, and hopefully that's helpful. In terms of upcoming things, I'm going to be at the PMI Agile 2026 in DC in July. So speaking there. I am also keynoting in Rochester, New York for Tech Connect. And that's not till October. I have limited public training available. I am doing a vision to value under X2A in September, virtual. So if you are struggling that the products you're developing just are not hitting that delighter factor, hitting that word of mouth factor that you want to be hitting in terms of value, it's a great course to be checking out. I'm excited to be offering it. And I'll get to teach with Christina. So I'm very, very excited about that. And we just put up the next impactful training. So if you want to work on your training skills as a leader, as a speaker, as a trainer, that offering will be virtual in September. So, or I'm sorry, August. So if you are interested in any of those, you can hit me up, email me, message me, comment on LinkedIn, and I will get you more information. Otherwise, I wish you all the best and have a wonderful June.